What is going on, guys? Maccabee Speed coming at you again. Another Tool Tuesday this week, right on target. I have been doing everyday uploads every single day since Saturday of not last Saturday, but the previous. That makes this the 11th day of uploads in a row. Really trying to get this out for you guys. Now today we're taking a look at my secret side hustle. It's not really that secret. I mean, in other videos I've referenced the fact that I'm a small business owner and that I have a powder coating company. But there are times that I definitely don't want to fire up all of the industrial equipment at the shop just to do a small item, just to do a part for a pistol, just to do, whatever the case may be, a tool, something local, something small that doesn't require the entire, full force of the company's tooling. That's when I kind of defer to my side hustle in the grow tent. Now, honestly, the number one negative thing about powder coat is the fact that when you shoot powder coat, it gets everywhere, and it is like the finest of fine powders that you could see. If you can think of like baking flour, it's equally fine or finer, like 10 micron sizing on the particle size, guys. So it's super fine, almost flows like a fluid, it's so fine. I can't stress how fucking fine this stuff is. It's like really difficult to contain powder coat. Why is this a problem? If you shoot powder coat as a hobbyist in your garage at your house, you are going to get powder coat on every single thing in that garage that you own. No two ways around it. I started as a hobbyist powder coater before I owned a powder coating company, and every garage that I stayed in was pretty much destroyed from powder coat until I figured out a good way to go ahead and contain it. Now, as a sheet metal worker, I've worked in a lot of hospital environments, a lot of, laboratory environments, a lot of sensitive environments that would definitely require you to contain the dust that you create as you work. So what does that mean? That means they bring in something called a containment tent. As soon as I saw a containment tent for the first time in a hospital, I was like, man, I could totally make something like that for myself to contain powder coat dust out of a grow tent. Why would I do this? When you look at the cost of constructing an actual paint booth, spray booth, powder coat enclosure versus $109.95 or so on Amazon Prime to get some whack grow tent to your house, that's a very small cost in comparison, and it basically does the same thing. I mean, what are we trying to do at the end of the day here? We're trying to contain the powder that does not make it onto our base object. The other great thing about using a grow tent as a powder coating or a painting enclosure is the fact that it's already got all these holes punched in it from the factory with drawstrings to contain it further for ducting. Ducting, which is necessary if you put an exhaust fan with a HEPA filter in this space to go ahead and contain that ambient dust further and get it evacuated into a filter instead of just having it kind of hang in the air like an environment, hanging out in a Tyvek suit, just powder everywhere. You want that to go somewhere, so it needs to go into a HEPA filtration system. That's where that big positive from the ducting holes in the grow tent really comes into play, guys. If you've ever built a physical structure out of sheetrock, out of 2x4s, out of framing, even steel stud framing, it's a difficult process. And when you start to factor in what's my ceiling height, what's my ducting height, all these different things that go into actually constructing a working space for you, there's a lot that goes into it. Way easier just to open a box, snap some poles together, put big black tarp with silver lining on it, over the whole frame structure that was very cheap and easy to acquire. And you're basically a handful of steps away from powder coating at that point. Now obviously if you have an exhaust fan and a filter set up for the powder coating tent itself, you're going to be able to utilize that fan for the oven exhaust as well. You just got to use a damper to kind of switch the flow from your powder coating grow tent to your oven hood. Now, easily accomplished, right? You just put a piece of plastic over one, all the flow goes to the other one. Move out of my powder coating tent, boom, plastic over the filter, now it's all going to the hood. This is easy, guys. You guys can powder coat at home, and I'm going to show you how today. Let's get it. Alright guys, let's get right into it. This is my garage powder coating setup. Now, this is basically just a household oven at this point, just a nice 30-inch wide range, electric range. Boom. As you can see, it's kind of got a hood above it to kind of direct the any smoke or fumes that may be generated from the powder coat itself up into this exhaust fan right here. This exhaust fan is ducted all the way to an actual exhaust fan and goes out through the roof. The tent itself is also ducted on the same fan, except this has a HEPA filter, like a true cube style HEPA filter installed in line, very first in line, guys. That way no dust particles, no matter what, is going to be able to get through that. That's an actual 99.97 at 0.003 micron size HEPA filter. It's only about 300 bucks, guys, but this is the thing that you need to contain powder coat. Let's take a look around the tent here. Couple of guns, cuts my color changes in half. Couple of Eastwood powder coating setups, real cheap, real easy. Little rack, little stand. Looking up there, we got our regulator and gauge. We have a LED light only pulling about 25 watts currently to light the entire space really well. Alright guys, this is what we're going to be powder coating today. This is one of those $6 stainless steel tumblers from Harbor Freight Tools. Now I've seen these advertised for anywhere between, you know, $6 at Harbor Freight Tools and as expensive as almost 20 bucks at some of the higher end retailers. What we have going here today is basically just a blank canvas for some powder coat. Something that's this new and this clean does not actually need to be mandatorily sandblasted, but I do go ahead and take that extra step of shooting it with brake clean so that it's residue free. What I also do is that pedestal that it's sitting on right there, if you notice, that pedestal is a silicone pedestal. That's going to keep the powder coat from getting inside the interior of this as well. What I've done is filled it with aluminum foil. Why do that? Because powder coating relies on a static charge to cling the powder to this base object. So with it completely full of foil and that foil protruding out the side of our silicone cap there, we'll be able to ground the cup but not have it stick to whatever it is that we use as our rack. Alright guys, there's kind of a lot going on here as far as the cords is concerned. Let's take a look here. We've got our two powder coating units connected to our two powder coating guns. We've got our base color of the brilliant silver there, and then we've got our shocker yellow for the top coat here. As you guys can see here, basically what you do is you just ground the entire cart. And what happens is when the cart's grounded, the foil is grounded. When the foil is grounded, the cup is grounded. What we'll go ahead and do here to kind of prep this is we're just going to go ahead and we're shooting it with brake clean. Brake clean leaves a really good surface for powder coat, guys. Alright guys, I'm kind of talking over the fan at this point, but what we're going to go ahead and do before we do anything is we're going to preheat our oven. Powder coat cures typically around 400 degrees. We're going to go ahead and set this guy up around 405 degrees because you're looking for not 400 degrees environment, but 400 degrees part temperature. So let's go ahead and fire this guy off. We're going to hit that bake button right there and we're going to set our temperature to 405 and fire. Now our baking environment is just going to slowly start to heat up to that 405 degree temperature. The fan inside this oven is actually disabled. You want as little movement within your powder coat baking environment as you can get when you're doing it. Now up here you can see this old kitchen hood that we had kind of just stuffed in the attic of this house. I found it when I moved in. Has been repurposed as my fume hood. This fume hood, like I said, goes through a HEPA, a true HEPA, and also through a carbon scrubber so that no dust, nor fumes, nor visible emissions come out of my house when I do this. If you're going to powder coat or paint or do anything in your garage or anything like that at your house, not an industrial environment, you have a responsibility to your neighbors and the people around you in your neighborhood and you know, also the people in your family to keep that shit contained, because oftentimes paints and powder coats, that's, you know, not the safest thing to be working around or breathing in. So the better that you can keep it contained through a HEPA filter like this one here, or you know, like a fume hood that we have over on the oven above it, because this one doesn't have too much particulate actually coming out of it, man, the better off you're gonna be. Alright guys, now comes actually one of my favorite parts, the physical shooting of the powder coat. As a kid, I totally liked to color. Now as an adult, I just don't get the same gratification out of, you know, crayons and colored pencils that I used to, but powder coating on the other hand, highly gratifying. Let's go ahead and get into exactly what it is we're doing today, guys. Take a quick look up at our gauge setup up here. The gauge that we currently have is an older gauge, the antique style from a long time ago. And we're just going to set this guy to about 12 psi today. Watching that needle just slowly climb, boom. Dialing in right around 12 psi right there. And that's probably going to give us somewhere in the range of 6 or 7 psi operating, actually working pressure once we start to use the gun. Alright guys, quick little test fire, make sure we're at the right pressure. Looks good. Yeah, the nice stream of powder right there. That's about what you'd like to see. You can just see it in the air, guys. This right here is the physical reason that you absolutely have to keep this stuff contained. Alright guys, I hope you saw right away just exactly how important having that ventilation, having that HEPA filter in place really is. I mean, there is so much powder coat dust that's there goes the compressor. Powder coat dust that's created when you actually shoot and apply this. It's crazy. If there's no containment, that will be all over your garage the very first time you shoot it, guys. Take the time, set your stuff up right. Definitely go ahead and try and make sure you contain as much as you can. If you can see over here, on the outside of the tent, there's a window. Now, a lot of these grow tents actually have a viewing window built into them. It's got this nice plastic sheet over it. You can kind of see it through the lens there a little bit. And what that enables me to do is utilize this hole in the zipper right here to put my arm through and then visually confirm that I'm shooting the powder coat in the places that I need to shoot it at this point through this window without even being inside this tent. So for 109 bucks, I don't know how you could actually contain paint or powder coat in a better fashion than what we got going here, guys. That duct right there, that ties into the Y branch that feeds into one fan that goes out of the rooftop after going through a carbon scrubber. That way, like I said before, no dust, no smell, guys. Alright guys, we successfully made the transition from the powder coating tent to the oven at this point. Let's go ahead and get it closed up. Alright guys, now our goal here is to basically establish a base coat. A lot of guys don't feel like they need to put a base coat down on something like stainless steel or chrome, but I like a base coat personally because it gives it that extra sparkle and pop. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to get this about a third of the way, 30 to 40% through its cure cycle, and then remove it from the oven. And then we'll go ahead and apply our second coat of powder coat and pop it back in the oven for the final curing, guys. Alright guys, she's looking really good right now. We're going to go ahead and give it a few more minutes to go ahead and flow out, and then we're going to go ahead and hit it with its top coat. Alright guys, this is looking so sick. I cannot wait until this is finished curing so that I can show you guys the final result. Alright guys, now one of the most overused expressions today on social media is, "That's wet." But literally, this cup is so clean, it looks wet to the touch. That's because the powder coat is still liquid at this point. Cup's about 350 degrees and cooling. It's just kind of hanging out in this powder coat tent where it won't be affected by any exterior dust or hair or anything weird in the environment that might stick to a still wet and still hot powder coating. Let's go ahead and give this thing some time to cool, guys. Alright guys, it looks like it's about somewhere around 100 degrees and falling. So that's going to be plenty cold enough for us to go ahead and pick this up and inspect our work. Alright guys, the shine on this is just amazing. I simply love the way that the Shocker Yellow looks over that silver base. It's so cool looking. I mean, just look at that sheen, guys. You guys are not going to be able to beat that type of a sheen or a gloss or a sparkle with any rattle can or HVLP gun you pick up. This is why powder coat is so good. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to go ahead and end it here on this one. But I hope you've liked this in-depth look at how you can get going powder coating at home in the garage and still not piss off your friends, neighbors, potentially roommates if you happen to have them. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe for more with those notification buttons so you can stay current on what day of the week it is on the channel, when our live streams are, and what else we got going on. If you really like this video, share it so that somebody else can see it, guys. As always, work safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.